Hello, everyone. Without further ado, let's get right into the story.
It was exactly 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Mr. Tum's house. He had just finished changing into a set of clothes, preparing to head out somewhere, when Mrs. Lon, his wife, walked out from the inner room and asked, "At this hour, you aren't sleeping? Where do you intend to go? I thought since it rained earlier, you said you would rest." "Well, I'm going fishing. Where else would I go? Do you really not know, or are you just asking?" Mr. Tum laughed mischievously as he spoke. Mrs. Lon saw this and clicked her tongue, resigned that her husband was obsessed with this fishing hobby again. Whenever it rained in the morning like this, Mr. Tum would invariably grab his fishing rod and head out, leaving Mrs. Lon at home alone. Ever since they first got married, her husband had been too addicted to fishing. There were times Mrs. Lon even scolded him, asking why he didn't just marry those fishing rods instead of bringing a wife home, as she only seemed to get in his way. Mr. Tum would just smile and flatter his wife with a few sweet words to let the matter slide. Once, Mr. Tum and his son even went fishing through the entire night. When they returned, both father and son had dark circles under their eyes from lack of sleep, but neither of them quit because they were too passionate about the sport. Saying that, Mr. Tum was still diligent in his work. He only grabbed his rod to go fishing when he had free time because he didn't know what else to do at home. Mrs. Lon didn't really stop him. But suddenly, today, she felt a bit unhappy when she saw him grabbing the rod to go out. Seeing his wife's expression, Mr. Tum said, "Come on, I'll just go fishing for a little bit and then come back. Why is your face so long like that?" Mrs. Lon didn't say anything, just smacked her lips and muttered a few sentences before walking into the inner room. Mr. Tum found her expression strange, but he ignored it. After getting ready, he carried his bundle of fishing rods toward the lake, which wasn't too far from their house. Mr. Tum had been gone for about an hour when the sky started to pour rain. Mrs. Lon didn't show much worry because the rain wasn't too heavy, and with rain like this, Mr. Tum would sit and wait for the fish to bite even longer. He might not return until dark. Her husband was a very skilled angler. Every time he went, he brought back a basket full of fish for her to cook. Thinking of this, Mrs. Lon wondered what dish she should cook for the couple to eat deliciously, partly for him to have with his wine. While she was thinking, someone came looking for him. Hearing the call, she went out to check and saw it was Mr. Ba. She said, "He went fishing out at the lake, Ba. Do you have any business, or do you want to go out there?" Mr. Ba replied in surprise, "Oh, is that so? Then never mind, I'll come by another time. I just had a small matter to ask him. If Mr. Tum went fishing, just let him fish in peace. I'm not fond of that sport. Going out there is noisy. If he doesn't catch anything, he'll blame me." Hearing this, Mrs. Lon laughed and said, "If he catches fish this afternoon, he'll surely tell me to invite you over to have a drink. Well, it's up to you." Mr. Ba said goodbye and went home. Mrs. Lon went back inside. By the evening of that day, around 6 p.m., she still hadn't seen her husband anywhere, so she started to worry. What is he trying to catch that he still refuses to come back? It wasn't too late yet, so she tried to wait a little longer. By 7 p.m., she truly felt uneasy. Only now did she remember the nauseous feeling she had when Mr. Tum was preparing to leave. Her heart felt like it was burning with fire. Unable to endure it any longer, she ran hurriedly out to the lake. When she arrived, Mrs. Lon didn't see her husband anywhere. She took a flashlight and shined it around, calling his name, but there was no response. After walking a short distance, she saw a pile of items, like a fish bucket, inside which were a few dead fish floating belly up. Heavens above! Oh my God, what on earth has happened to him? After screaming, she swung the light toward the middle of the lake, thinking Mr. Tum might have fallen in. Even more horrifying, she saw something floating in the middle of the lake, a long streak that looked like a fishing rod. Realizing what might have happened, Mrs. Lon screamed loudly and ran back to find people to help. Hearing the shouts, everyone ran out to the lake. Many people who knew how to swim immediately dived down, and painfully, Mr. Tum's body was found. Seeing his husband's corpse, she collapsed and fainted. The people around were also extremely panicked. Everyone began to discuss the reason for Mr. Tum's death. One man said Mrs. Lon told them she saw the rod floating in the middle of the lake. They assumed he fell in, perhaps because a fish pulled the rod away and he chased after it, resulting in drowning. That's absurd. Mr. Tum has been famous since childhood for being the best swimmer in the region. How could he drown? No matter how well you swim, if you stay down there too long and get a cramp, you can die just as easily. This person's statement seemed reasonable. The others nodded their heads in agreement, because some of them had almost lost their lives while swimming due to cramps. Then they lamented, "Poor man, it was just a fish. Why regret it so much? Now the wife suffers, the children suffer." Mr. Tom was quickly brought home for a funeral. At the face of the passing of a neighbor, as well as a husband and father, everyone was grief-stricken. Mr. Tom had 2 children, one son named Ming and a daughter. Both of his children were quite smart and quick-witted. Hearing the news of their father's death, the 2 siblings rushed back from the city.
After a bout of tragic crying, the brother, Min, asked why his father died. Hearing that Mr. Tum drowned in the lake while fishing, he didn't believe it and shouted loudly, "How can such a thing happen? Mom knows how well Dad could swim. How could Dad possibly die? It is truly too absurd." Mrs. Lon only knew how to cry. Min's uncle immediately explained, "Calm down, nephew. Just listen to what I know. When I arrived and heard the news, I didn't believe it either. But according to what everyone says, when they went to the lake, they saw the rod floating. Everyone guesses your dad went fishing, the fish pulled the rod away, and your dad jumped into the lake to pull it back. Unfortunately, he got a cramp." "Impossible! Even if he got a cramp, Dad couldn't die that easily." Min screamed in pain, but the truth was that his father was dead. The cause was concluded to be drowning with no other signs. The pain was multiplied when the funeral was attended by the old grandmother, Mr. Tum's biological mother, who was over 80 years old. Her health was poor, and she couldn't walk, so her granddaughter had to support her as she sat in one place witnessing her son's funeral. The old lady was in great pain. Although she didn't cry out loud, her eyes were blurred with tears. The granddaughter was supporting her when suddenly the old lady sat up straight as if she was still healthy, stood looking out at the gate, and mumbled something in her mouth like, "Son, oh son." From that moment, the old lady kept calling, "Tum, oh Tum." The people in the house only knew to comfort her, not paying much attention. No one knew that the old lady kept looking out at the gate as if she saw someone. On the day the coffin was taken to the cemetery, it started raining again. The rain fell gently, like sadness over the sudden departure of the family's pillar. When the coffin was lowered into the grave, Min's uncle, Mr. Thing, who was Mr. Tum's older brother, had just picked up a handful of soil and stood straight up intending to drop it down for his younger brother when he screamed aloud. Mr. Thing said that Mr. Tum was sitting on top of the coffin looking at him. Mr. Thing wet his pants and collapsed, clutching his chest, breathing heavily, his face pale without a drop of blood. And it was true that he had just seen a ghost, because Mr. Tum had clearly appeared sitting on the coffin. That scene was surely only visible to him. Later, when many people asked, he just recounted with a trembling voice, "At that moment, I intended to drop the soil when I saw my brother sitting up there. I was so scared I almost stopped breathing and died." Everyone buzzed about this incident. Seeing this, Mr. Thing felt guilty, afraid people would spread rumors, so he hurriedly corrected himself. "Probably because my brother left so suddenly, I imagined it. I apologize to everyone." To stop people from whispering, Mr. Thing tried to look sorrowful and bravely picked up a handful of soil to drop down for his younger brother. Not seeing the scene from earlier, he breathed a sigh of relief. The work continued until the grave was filled. The family performed the ceremony and returned home. Since returning, Min had been dazed and distracted, but the matter of Mr. Thing and the look on his face at that moment could not escape his eyes. Never believing his father could die so easily from the start, Min began to get suspicious. The next day, at Mr. Thing's house, while he was sitting and eating lunch heartily, his wife, Mrs. Hank, said, "Your younger brother just died, yet you eat so deliciously." Mr. Thing immediately snapped, "Are you being sarcastic with me? So what if I eat deliciously? When that guy Tum died, I truly felt relieved. In this case, Mother must leave the majority of the land to us. What else? Saves me the trouble of finding all sorts of ways." Seeing his husband's cold face, Mrs. Hank, having been his wife for a long time and knowing his temperament, still couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine, even feeling a bit guilty. "Hey, don't tell me his death was caused by you. Will you stop it? I'm not that scary. What I want is just the land Mother leaves. If I kill someone, I'll be imprisoned. What good does that do? I'm not that stupid." Hearing this, Mrs. Hank trusted him and sighed a relief. Luckily, her husband wasn't scary enough to kill his brother. She mentioned Min again. Mr. Thing clicked his tongue. "In the end, he's just a nephew. The old lady has to leave it to me. I'm the only remaining son of hers. You don't need to worry. Just wait a few days and I'll go over and find the right words to speak with Mother." After eating, Mr. Thing went into the bedroom. A few days ago it rained, but today it was sunny again, even sweltering, making him lie down with his belly exposed but still uncomfortable. Unable to stand being in the room, Mr. Thing went outside. He almost screamed when he saw a person standing outside the door. However, because it was too sunny outside and his eyes were a bit dazzled, he only saw a black shadow. Mr. Ting frowned and approached, asking who it was, but the figure stood still. Getting closer, he saw the person was completely wet. "Oh, who is it? Why are you so wet? What are you doing here?" As soon as Mr. Ting finished speaking, the person looked up. Upon seeing that face, Mr. Ting screamed loudly when he realized this was Mr. Tom, his dead younger brother. "Heavens above! Brother Tom? I beg you, don't scare me. I'll die." Mr. Ting backed inside, while the ghost of Mr. Tom stood still in front of the door, looking at his older brother with extremely angry eyes. Water from his body, like a slimy fluid, dripped down onto the porch. Mr. Ting was so terrified that he kicked over several chairs, but didn't dare stop. He screamed for his wife to save him. But Mrs. Hanch wouldn't open her eyes. Mr. Ting peed his pants, his eyes terrified, not daring to look away from his brother's figure standing out there. Then Mr. Tom said just one sentence before turning and walking away. "You are very cruel. You are my brother, Mother's son, but you are very cruel." Overcome with terror, Mr. Ting fell backwards, his body convulsing, unable to reply. He waited until his brother was out of sight before he dared to breathe normally again. He didn't know that outside his fence someone was standing there, and that was Min. Min still harbored questions about his father's death. He intended to come over here to ask his uncle to clarify everything. Before he could enter the house, he heard Mr. Ting screaming in terror, even calling his father's name. That made him even more suspicious. For a moment in his thoughts, Min considered Mr. Ting was the one who harmed his father, because Min knew very well that Mr. Ting always wanted the bigger share in this family, specifically their grandmother's land. Min didn't dare confirm, because as an educated person, he knew there must be clear evidence to conclude. He bravely walked inside. Mr. Ting had just changed his clothes and cleaned up the puddle of urine he had just made. Seeing Min step to the door, he was scared to death again, wanting to scream, because Min's face looked quite like Mr. Tom's. Min hurried to support him. Recognizing who it was, he calmed down, and then the two talked. Min said he suspected his father's death was not an accident, to probe Mr. Ting's face. Mr. Ting looked extremely surprised, and then affirmed, "Uncle feels so heartbroken too. Many times I think I don't want to accept it. That day when I received the news, I rushed out, and it was true that your father was pulled up from the lake.
Your mother also said she went looking for you, but didn't see your father anywhere. She saw the rod in the middle of the lake, so she ran back to find people to help. Everyone knows the story is just like that. Why are you so suspicious?" Mr. Ting recounted it very naturally. However, the neighbor's story, everyone in the neighborhood, said it was impossible to prove Mr. Ting innocent. Min probed everything and heard that all that day his uncle went to the neighboring commune for private business. Min was still suspicious about whether Mr. Ting really went to the neighboring commune or not, and if he went there, where did he go? Not knowing what could be found out, Mr. Ting was also quite smart. Realizing his nephew's suspicion immediately, he frankly stated the places he had visited. Mr. Ting added, "When and where your father went fishing, how would I know to do such shocking things? You may not like me, but regarding adult matters, understand them as you will, but don't think of me as such a person." Min apologized to his uncle and left, his eyes still carrying a wariness towards this uncle, because for a person with ambition, there was nothing they couldn't do. Unable to find any evidence that his father was harmed, Min now thought of relying on hope and spirituality. That was for Mr. Tom to appear in a dream, but since he died, Min hadn't dreamed of him a single night. His younger sister was the opposite. Hearing his sister tell the story, Min grabbed his shoulders and asked her, "Did Dad say anything to you? Did Dad say who harmed him?" The sister shook her head, saying through sobs that Mr. Tom only said he was very cold. So Mrs. Lan went to buy offerings to burn for her husband. She hoped he would bless her 2 children. Then, one day, preparing to sleep, Min heard a clicking sound somewhere, as if someone was walking in the yard. He moved to the window so he could see the yard, and saw a shadow walking back and forth. However, it was too dark to know who it was.
Min could only try to sense who was going out, because it looked very familiar. That's right, it was Mr. Tum's posture, often walking in the yard every afternoon after work to exercise. Upon recognizing his father, Min ran quickly to him, calling his name, but Mr. Tum was nowhere to be seen. The yard was empty. He still ran out to search, sobbing and calling Dad. His mother and sister heard the noise and ran out. Min recounted it, and Mrs. Lan shook her head. "Son, I beg you, your father is gone. How can he walk in the yard? You miss your dad, so you imagined it." Min shook his head, affirming he saw Mr. Tum, but Mrs. Lan absolutely didn't believe it. She believed that death was the end. Mr. Tum died due to an accident, with no injustice. Then she intended to go inside, but was startled when she heard Min scream, pointing down at the yard. "Mom, look! Dad's footprints! Look there!" Mrs. Lan looked down and was also terrified to see what looked exactly like several footprints. She hurriedly walked into the house, grabbed a flashlight, ran out and turned it on. In the yard, there were indeed a series of footprints. They were marks made by water, while the feet of the 3 of them were all wearing slippers and completely dry. Mrs. Lan slowly moved the light and saw a series of other footprints, as if someone had walked in circles back and forth in the yard. She trembled, shouting loudly, "Honey, have you really returned?" No one answered. She hurriedly ran into the house to light incense for her husband. Min and his sister still stood outside looking at the drying footprints. Min ran inside and saw his mother fall flat on the floor, so he rushed to ask. She recounted, "Just now I lit incense for your father. I saw your father crying in the photo. Dad is crying, my children." Both Min and his sister were horrified. Min replaced his mother to light incense for his father. Just as he lit it, he tried looking at the photo. He saw a light, but saw nothing else. Min told his sister to turn on the lights in the house. However, there was nothing strange. Mrs. Lan sobbed and cried. Even if it was her husband, the image of Mr. Tum crying in the frame just now was too frightening for her. Min then said, "If so, then it's true. I thought so. Dad died unjustly. I said it. Dad swam so well. Even with a cramp, he couldn't die like that. Dad wasn't a greedy person either. How could he lose his life for a fish? But who harmed Dad? Min shook his head, saying he needed to investigate further. Mrs. Lon told him to report to the police, but Min said no, because there was no evidence that Mr. Tum was harmed. He told his sister to go sleep with her mother for peace of mind. He returned to his room, and when he turned off the light, he saw a black shadow standing outside the window, terrified, chilling his spine. He groped for the flashlight nearby, turned it on, and shone it at the window. A gasp appeared on his face. Standing outside the main window was Mr. Tum with disheveled hair. Min wanted to scream, but his mouth was covered by someone, unable to utter a sound. Mr. Tum stood there looking at him with gloomy eyes. He shook his head and then walked away. Min wanted to chase after him, but his legs had almost no sensation. Min couldn't control himself. Mr. Tum walked away. After a while, Min could move normally. He still intended to chase, but as soon as he lifted his foot, his head spun, and he fainted without knowing when. When he woke, Min found himself lying on the bed, the room door bolted from the inside. He tried to remember what happened and remembered everything clearly, only not knowing one thing. Why was he here? Min recalled fainting near the door. Why was he lying on the bed now? Did he climb up here to sleep normally by himself? Not right. If he fainted, he wouldn't know anything. So someone put Min on the bed. However, the door was bolted from the inside, so the only way in or out was the very small window near the yard. Did his mother or sister crawl through that way to put him to bed? Even more impossible. So there was only the possibility that Min returned to bed himself. Perhaps he woke up during the night and didn't remember. Min sat up and went out. He also recounted what happened to him to his mother and sister. Suddenly, the two widened their eyes at him. "When did your dad return? What are you saying?" Min repeated the story from last night, and Mrs. Lon shook her head even more. "No, I slept straight through until morning with your sister. When did I go out with you? What footprints? I don't understand." Min listened and was even more dumbfounded. He trembled intensely, ran up to the house, and approached the altar. There, the incense stick he replaced his mother to light was still there. Clearly, he lit that stick because he was a bit panicked at the time, so Min planted it tilted, pointing out a little differently from the others. So why? Why did Mrs. Lon and her sister say they didn't remember anything about this? He ran out to the yard. The footprints from last night had dried up, leaving nothing behind. Min went from one disbelief to another. Mrs. Lon and her daughter just stood watching him from afar with incomprehension, not knowing what was wrong with Min. When Min came in, Mrs. Lon advised him, "Stop it, son. Don't think too much. Your father is gone. Let him rest. I see you look haggard." Min didn't reply. Mrs. Lon said again, "Go wash your face and eat breakfast. Later, you and I will go to Dad's grave a bit." Min listened. A while later, the mother and two children carried items to the cemetery. As the three were walking, someone came looking. It was a man about Mr. Tum's age. This person's name was Mr. Ba, who shared the same passion for fishing as Mr. Tum. Hearing the news of his friend's death, he only came by now, but there was no one home. Seeing the gate locked from the outside, he intended to turn and leave when he heard the lock click open. Mr. Ba turned around, not knowing what had just happened, but realized the gate was no longer locked. He was stunned, thinking he had misseen earlier and there must be someone in the house. Asking a few sentences with no one opening the door, being quite close to Mr. Tum, Mr. Ba opened the gate himself to enter. "Is anyone home? Let me come in to light an incense." Still no answer.
Mr. Ba felt uneasy, not knowing if anyone was home, but naturally thought if the gate wasn't locked, someone must be home. He got closer to the door to check. Just as Mr. Ba intended to call out, the house door opened by itself.
He pulled the door fully open and looked inside. Indeed, there was someone inside, but it was a man. Initially, he guessed it was Min because he knew he was back. But no, this figure was taller, resembling Mr. Thing. Mr. Tum was Mr. Thing's younger brother, so his presence here wasn't too surprising. Mr. Ba spoke up. "Ah, is that Brother Thing? It's me, Ba, here. I came to light incense for Tum. Please let me in." Mr. Thing still stood sideways facing inside, so only his back and figure were visible. He didn't answer. Mr. Ba boldly approached, his eyes seemingly hesitant, then looking strange when he saw Mr. Thing's whole body was soaked. "Heavens, what did you do to get so wet? Go change clothes quickly or you'll get sick." As Mr. Ba spoke, the person moved slightly. The person moved and slowly turned to look back. Alas, in front of Mr. Ba now was not Mr. Thing, but Mr. Tum, the person he intended to visit to light incense. He was standing right in front of his own altar, his face pale, turning to look at his friend with eyes that were all white, then curled his lips to a smile and said, Come here and light incense for me. I'm so cold." "Heavens above! Ghost! There's a ghost! Help me!" Mr. Ba ran out to the gate, trying to pull it open when a face exactly like Mr. Tum's made him scream again. Mr. Ba screamed and fell backwards, limbs convulsing, his face still glued to the person who'd just appeared. It was Min. Behind him was Mrs. Lan and the daughter. Min had just run back and saw the gate open by itself. Upon entering, he was startled to see someone screaming like they saw a ghost. Recognizing who it was, he asked, "Uncle Ba, what are you doing at my house?" Min recognized him because in the old days he was often taken fishing by his dad with Mr. Ba and some others. Uncle came to light incense for your dad. I thought you three were in the house." Min said the mother and children just returned from the grave, but his face made them worry. Asking, he recounted the recent event. Mrs. Lan was terrified and rushed into the house to see. Min asked, "Did you see my dad inside for real?" "Yeah, I went in and saw him standing there. At first I thought it was your Uncle Thing, because those two look very alike. But when he turned around..." Mr. Ba looked at Min in terror. "You have to believe me. I'm not lying." He didn't need to say that for Min to believe, because of the fact that he could open the gate and enter the house when Min had locked the door before leaving. He believed that Mr. Tum had opened the gate for his friend. Mrs. Lan turned back, gritted her teeth and said, "Don't be afraid. Actually, if you saw him, it makes sense. Don't think too much." Min looked at his mother in surprise. Mrs. Lan had to tell the truth. "Mom didn't want you to dive head first into that matter, so I told your sister to lie. But actually, last night your sister and I also saw it and were very scared." Mr. Ba was invited inside to light incense. He said he was away on business the other day, so hearing Mr. Tum died, he rushed over to visit. Then, while trying to light the incense stick, the lighter in his hand wouldn't produce a flame. Mr. Ba vaguely heard a voice in his ear saying, "Light it. Light incense for me. I'm so cold." Mr. Ba was terrified, dropping the incense stick and lighter to the ground, sweating profusely. Min asked what was wrong, and he just replied, "Uncle is fine, nephew." Then Min got another lighter for him, but it still didn't work. He tried lighting it himself, and it worked normally. Mr. Ba was also amazed. "Heavens, I tried lighting it forever just now. How strange." Min lit an incense stick for Uncle Ba and handed it to him. He prayed and whispered something softly, then planted it in the incense bowl and sat down to talk. While they were talking, the fire on the incense bowl suddenly flared up. Min hurried to extinguish the fire, but failed. Min found it very strange because not many incense sticks were planted, yet the fire flared up. Hearing something inauspicious, he prayed a few sentences to his father, and the fire finally went out. Then Min turned back and said, "Ideally, my dad was just here." Min's statement, not knowing if true or joking, made Mr. Ba shudder. He glanced around. Actually, Min noticed this fear, but he himself was also creeped out. Even if Mr. Tum was his biological father, after all, yin and yang are separated. The living and dead cannot contact each other. Mr. Ba hesitantly talked for a while longer, then asked to leave. As for Mr. Thing, he still often came over to light incense for his brother, reminding the mother and children to quickly calm down and recover from the loss. Min knew well that Mr. Thing was only putting on a front, while inside he had other thoughts. He immediately went to his grandmother's house right next door. She was weak and had difficulty walking, but absolutely refused to live in the same house with her 2 children. When she was still healthy, the old lady said she liked living in that house to have some memories before passing away. Mrs. Land still often went back and forth to take care of her mother-in-law. Min knew clearly what Mr. Thing was there for, but he didn't care about the land matter. However grandmother decided, he and his parents would obey. He was intending to go ask the neighbors if his father had any conflicts with anyone, when Mr. Thing rushed out from the grandmother's house, screaming in panic as if he had just seen a ghost. Mr. Thing ran and fell, hearing a thud as his face hit the ground, but he still tried to stand up, rushed out of the gate, and ran away. Not knowing what happened, Min worriedly ran to check on his grandmother. Feeling uneasy about the old lady's condition, luckily, upon arriving, Min saw she was fine, still somewhat lucid. He asked, and the old lady took a long time to say it all. Roughly, as Min thought, Mr. Thing came in to tell his mother to transfer the land use rights to him because he was the eldest son. The old lady was bored and turned her face to the wall. Mr. Thing couldn't stand it and reached out to pull his mother back. Not understanding why, he suddenly screamed and ran away like that. Hearing his grandmother finish speaking, Min became even more suspicious. The thought that Mr. Thing was involved in his father's death became even stronger. The old lady suddenly reached out and squeezed his hand tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. Min asked, but she was too tired to say anything more. Mrs. Land brought porridge over for her mother. Hearing Min recount the story, she was angry. Mom is sick, and he doesn't care for a day. All day coming over to ask about land and property. How can there be such a son in this world? Realizing she had misspoken in front of the old lady, Mrs. Land quickly withdrew her gaze and said nothing more. As for Min, he went out, his mind filled with thoughts about Mr. Thing. Min went to Mr. Thing's house, but didn't enter. He only scouted outside, but didn't see him. Min wanted to see if his uncle showed any other signs. Recalling the few times just seeing his face, he had shown fear. Adding the fact that Mr. Thing often screamed Mr. Tum's name, Min thought of a possibility. Mr. Thing wasn't afraid of Min, but afraid of Mr. Tum. Mr. Thing was now hiding deep in the house, trembling, his teeth chattering loudly, his body covered in sweat. In his eyes appeared a terrifying fear, because just now, while trying to persuade his mother, seeing the old lady turn her face inward, he angrily pulled her back. Then a horrifying scene struck his eyes. The person lying on the bed was his recently deceased brother. Mr. Tom lay there with pale skin, his 2 eyes staring at him. "You are cruel. You are very cruel, Brother Thint." Hearing that, Mr. Thint turned and ran home, but still couldn't escape the terror. Hearing his wife walking outside, Mr. Thint thought it was Mr. Tom, and continuously swayed back and forth following the footsteps. Those footsteps kept drilling deep inside, making him so terrified he couldn't stand it, so he removed the blanket and left the room without anyone knowing. Men stood outside for a while, then left. That night, Mrs. Han suddenly ran over, asking if her husband was there. She searched once, but didn't see him. Although she didn't like her, Mrs. Lan still told her son to go look for his uncle. Searching the whole village, high and low, he wasn't found. Mrs. Han was forced to seek a shaman to find her husband on everyone's advice. The woman said her husband committed a great sin, was followed by a spirit, and taken away. It wasn't clear yet. She handed over a piece of areca nut. Here are 5 pieces. Go to all the ponds and lakes in this area and throw them down. Wherever the areca nut sinks, your husband is hidden there. Remember, there are only 5 pieces." Mrs. Hahn listened, horrified, and asked, "What sin did my husband commit, master?" "Do you want to save your husband or investigate what he did? Why don't you go quickly? A minute late and your husband is closer to death." Mrs. Hahn didn't dare ask more, hurriedly taking 5 pieces of areca nut to go. The first pond belonged to a family raising fish. Regardless of the pond, she had to try, but there were only 5 chances. The areca nut was dropped. Initially, it wasn't seen, and everyone was happy, but a few seconds later, it floated to the water surface. At the next pond, the result was the same. Even at a quite large lake, there was no result. But in this area, there were many other ponds and lakes, yet only 1 piece remained. If there was no result, Mrs. Hahn could only cry to the heavens. With only 1 piece of areca nut left, Mrs. Hahn didn't dare act recklessly. Suddenly, Mrs. Lon said, "Maybe he's out at the lake where my husband used to fish and died." Mrs. Hahn asked in surprise how Mrs. Lon knew, and she replied, "Well, around noon today he came to Mother's place, then suddenly rushed out screaming and calling my husband's name. I heard men say the old lady said so. If there's anything, please forgive me." Mrs. Lon didn't say it bluntly, but Mrs. Hahn understood. Mrs. Lon continued, "Maybe my husband is angry, so he hid him away. Let's try going out there, sister." Everyone went to the lake where Mr. Tom used to fish and died. Mrs. Hahn prayed and threw the areca nut. Everyone stood still waiting. A moment later, Mrs. Hahn shouted, "Here! It's right here! Search quickly!" Mrs. Hahn was happy to find her husband, but also worried, remembering the shaman said, "Wherever the nut sinks, the person is hidden there." Hidden meant not dead yet, just not found. But before she could rejoice for long, the nut floated up again. Mrs. Lon pointed and shouted loudly, "Heavens! The nut floated again!" Mrs. Hahn's limbs flimped and she fell to her knees, so her husband wasn't here either. Everyone went home. Mrs. Hahn was like a person whose soul was stolen, hearing nothing anyone said. Then she burst into sobbing tears, just returning home like that. The next shock occurred when everyone saw Mr. Thin sitting dumbly on a chair. Everyone rushed in, stopped crying, and asked, "Where did you go that you only came back now?" "I went on business. I should ask you that. It's late and there's no rice to eat. I'm starving to death, yet you drag everyone somewhere." Everyone was extremely shocked by this event. Then everyone realized they misunderstood his disappearance. Mrs. Hahn suddenly changed her tone to anger. "Damn it! And I went to believe that shaman. She said you committed a sin and were hidden by a spirit, giving me 5 pieces to nut to search. I followed it like it was real." Mrs. Hahn recounted the story in an angry voice. Mr. Thin listened and laughed heartily. "That shaman. From now on, never believe in those flimsy shamans." When everyone had left, Mr. Thin began to crack a bizarre smile. He turned to the side where someone was standing right next to him. That person's entire body was soaked with water, water dripping down drop by drop. That person standing there was Mr. Tom. He looked at his brother and said, "You are cruel. You must pay." Mr. Thin no longer looked afraid like the previous times he saw his brother. On the contrary, he nodded, stood up, and went inside to change out of the dirty clothes no one had noticed earlier. Mrs. Hahn was hurriedly cooking a meal downstairs because her husband said he was hungry. She suddenly saw someone pass by the kitchen, so she turned around. She suddenly felt a chill on her neck and goosebumps rose. She muttered, "Damn it, where is this cold draft coming from?" Then, at the meal, Mr. Thin didn't eat normally, but grabbed handfuls of food from the bowl. The food was still piping hot. Mrs. Hahn shouted immediately, "What's wrong with you? If you're hungry, eat slowly. Why grab it like that?" Mr. Thin didn't care at all. He grabbed pieces of meat, put them in the bowl and into his mouth, swallowed whole, and said, "So warm, so warm." Mrs. Hahn wanted to stop him, but Mr. Thin glared at her. She was so scared she shrank back. He continued to grab food and then lifted the hot soup bowl to pour into his mouth. So warm, so warm. Finishing the hot soup bowl in an instant, Mr. Thin asked again, "Is there any more? I'm very cold." Mrs. Hahn was terrified, trembling, pointing to the kitchen, saying there was still some in the pot. He immediately rushed down there. Mrs. Hahn chased after. The terrifying scene continued. This time, Mr. Thin held the boiling pot of soup and poured it into his mouth, his face unchanging. "Husband, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." After eating, Mr. Thin's entire mouth and part of his face were red from burns, but he didn't show any pain. On the contrary, he was very satisfied. Looking at the pot of meat next to him, he continued to intend to do the same thing, but then collapsed to the floor and fainted. Mrs. Hahn struggled to get him into the room, fearful and worried, not knowing what was wrong with him. Seeing her husband's face burned, she hurriedly looked for oil to apply on him. But when she returned, Mr. Thin was gone. Mrs. Hahn hurriedly ran to find him, only to find he was in the back kitchen, holding a pot of cold meat, pouring it into his mouth.
Too cold, not warm at all. Realizing her husband's strange behavior, but the scariest thing was his eyes. They were glazed over. She rushed to hug her husband, crying and begging him not to do that anymore. She was scared. Mr. Think calmed down and went into the room to sleep. Mr. Think slept soundly. Mrs. Hank was worried and couldn't close her eyes. She didn't know where Mr. Think went today to return like this. As for the shaman, the next day, hearing news about Mr. Think, she appeared surprised, even thinking she calculated wrong. Could her whole life as a shaman now have such a mistake? Her bewildered look gradually disappeared, and then she sighed and muttered to herself, "So that's how it is." Hearing this, her disciple asked in surprise, but the master didn't answer, waving for the student to leave so she could be alone. One morning, Min just woke up after a sleepless night. Lately, almost every night he saw his father return, standing outside the window, but every time he wanted to follow to ask for clarity, he couldn't. Seeing his son's haggard eyes, Mrs. Land said, "Heavens, did you not sleep at night? Your eyes are dark circles. Go wash your face to wake up. Eat breakfast, then go back to rest. Keep this up and you'll get sick." Min didn't argue. He obeyed and went out to the well next to the water jar. He bent down low to wash his face, feeling a bit more awake, although his body was still full of fatigue. Min wiped his eyes and opened them to stand up when he was startled to see two reflections in the jar. One was his, and one was someone he didn't know. Before Min could figure it out, a hand grabbed his neck and pushed him straight down into the water jar. His head immediately submerged, and he began to feel difficulty breathing. He wanted to call for help, wanted to struggle, but could only emit gurgling sounds. No matter how much his limbs flared, it didn't help him escape the heavy pressure of the other person. Min's resistance gradually weakened. The remaining weak breath also faded, which was when a hand pulled him back up. He fell flat on the ground, eyes wide, gradually returning to normal. He saw someone standing right near him, surely the person who just wanted to drown him. However, looking closer, he saw it was Mrs. Lan. "What are you doing? Why do you want to kill your son?" Mrs. Lan looked at her son in horror. She spoke as if wanting to scream for the whole neighborhood to hear. "What are you saying? Why would I want to kill you? I should ask what you were trying to do like that." Min mumbled, and Mrs. Lan continued to scream. "Min, are you crazy doing that? If I didn't come out in time, you would really have died. Your father died. Everyone is heartbroken. Why use this way to follow him?" Mrs. Lan spoke as tears welled up because she thought her son intended to commit suicide. Min didn't understand what was happening. After talking back and forth, both understood each other's issues. Mrs. Lan recounted preparing breakfast when she heard gurgling sounds somewhere. She groped outside. What struck her eyes was the scene of Min like that. Min recounted the opposite. He absolutely had no intention. Min even affirmed that until the true cause of his father's death was found, he wouldn't die easily like that. Someone wanted to kill him. Mrs. Land listened to her son and shook her head, because clearly when she came out here, she only saw Min out here, no one else. Even if there was, he couldn't have escaped that fast.
Mrs. Land suddenly thought of something. She ran up to the altar to light incense for her husband. "Husband, you live wisely, die sacredly, bless me and the children. Why are such things happening in our house?" Min ran after his mother to the house. Suddenly he shuddered when looking at the portrait. Mr. Tum's eyes seemed very angry. Looking closely, it wasn't exactly angry. That look was like he was looking at someone else. Min instinctively turned around. He was slightly panicked to see Mr. Think standing there, since when, with a disheveled appearance covered in mud. Min screamed, which made Mrs. Land startled too. "Uncle Think, when did you come here?" Mrs. Land turned around and saw Mr. Think standing there. She looked a bit surprised, while Mr. Think didn't answer his nephew, but smiled coldly. "So warm. The incense here is so warm." Saying that, he rushed inside without letting the mother and son react. The daughter just returned, seeing something happening but not understanding, just stood observing. Mr. Think rushed to his brother's altar and kept saying, "So warm, so warm." "Uncle Think, what are you doing? Don't scare us." Mrs. Land raised her voice to ask, looking in horror at her brother-in-law's appearance and actions. But Mr. Think paid no attention. He reached straight into the altar and grabbed Mr. Tum's portrait. "Uncle Think, what are you doing? Put it back. That's my dad's altar photo." Min tried to snatch it back, but Mr. Think held it tighter. Suddenly, Mr. Think looked at his brother's face in the photo and burst into tears. He said something Mrs. Land and the daughter couldn't hear. Only Min heard vaguely. "Mom, son, I'm so cold. Dad is so cold." Min was suddenly stunned. He instinctively cried out, "Dad! Dad!" Mrs. Land and the younger sister were surprised to hear Min scream like that. Min intended to hug Mr. Think, but in the blink of an eye, everything returned to normal. Mr. Think still only cried out a few words, "Too cold, too cold." Then, in a moment when the others couldn't regain their composure, Mr. Think hugged his brother's portrait and rushed out. Not knowing where Mr. Think ran, Min's sister remembered the shaman and mentioned her, but Mrs. Hank dismissed it immediately, interrupting, "Believe what from that damned shaman? The other day she prophesied like it was true. Then your uncle appeared at home, yet she made the whole group search until we almost died."
Not knowing why, Min had a feeling Mr. Thing was out at the cemetery. He tried running out there, and indeed he was there. Lying in front of Mr. Tum's grave, hands still holding the portrait. They brought Mr. Thing back home to rest, waiting for him to wake up to see if there were any issues. However, since that day, Mr. Thing had gone completely mad. Hearing the news, his 2 children rushed back to the countryside, even though they'd just returned a few days ago for their uncle's funeral. Mr. Thing was dazed. Everyone felt pity. All day he just smiled and talked to himself. If he ate anything, he defecated right on the spot. And this matter couldn't escape Min's suspicion. He brought his father's photo back, placed it on the altar, and asked himself if Mr. Tum was the one harming Mr. Thing like this. Was it because Mr. Thing laid hands on his father, so now he was being revenged like this? Thinking so, Min screamed loudly, "Just because of a piece of land?" Not only Min, but the surrounding villagers also began to gossip and suspect this matter, regarding Mr. Tum's death having too many unreasonable points. Previously, they thought he got a cramp while swimming, but now Mr. Thing went mad and wild, always calling his brother's name. They immediately thought of the possibility that Mr. Thing acted against his brother. They knew the conflict between the two, or more accurately, the conflict created by Mr. Thing himself, because Mr. Tum was always carefree, not needing that piece of mother's land. But Mr. Thing was different. He always worried the old lady would divide that land equally, so he found every way to gain the advantage. Now that Mr. Tum died, wasn't Mr. Thing the one benefiting most? Mr. Tum's death seemed like an unfortunate accident, and now it made people even more suspicious.
That day, Mr. Ba and a few people went fishing. Sitting and talking, they discussed the information about Mr. Thing going mad. Mr. Ba, usually talkative, sat silently today, as if he wanted to hear clearly what the others said. Someone asked, and he really started, then waved his hand. "Ah, it's nothing, everyone don't mind." Just then a fish bit the hook. He hurriedly pulled it up, feeling heavy, thinking the fish was big, so he rejoiced silently. However, as soon as he pulled it up, he panicked when he saw it was a human head, a man's head. Mr. Ba was scared speechless. Everyone asked how to divide the fish now, and he said, "Ah, everyone share it. I won't take any." Such a big fish, why refuse? Then thanks. Mr. Ba didn't reply, but hurriedly gathered his rod to return. The others didn't care anymore. He walked gasping for breath, the scene from earlier still imprinted in his mind, muttering in fear, "I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to." His limbs were weak and limp from fear. Returning home, Mr. Ba saw a figure looking grotesque running from afar. Looking closely, he saw it was Mr. Thing. Looking at him now, he was like a 3-year-old child. No, a 3-year-old wasn't as foolish as a person with epilepsy like this. Mr. Thing ran while tearing the clothes on his body. Even his body was covered with wounds like scratch marks, blood oozing red. Seeing this, Mr. Ba was even more terrified. Mr. Thing ran in front of him, suddenly stopped, turned his face to look, his mouth blossoming at a smile that made Mr. Ba's heart skip a beat. "What are you looking at?" Mr. Thing didn't answer, just looked with eyes signaling an omen, then left. Mrs. Hung chased from behind to stop her husband. Mr. Ba didn't dare linger, hurrying, leaving for home to lessen the fear. That night, Mr. Ba was preparing to sleep when he heard the sound of trickling water around the house, the gurgling sound of someone having their head pushed under water. He sat huddled on the bed in fear, while his wife still slept soundly, knowing nothing. He was so scared he had to wake his wife, but she wouldn't wake up. From the door came footsteps. Mr. Ba jumped, panicked, looking at the door. Immediately it was opened by someone. Now he was scared to death, opening his mouth trying to inhale every breath, but forever seeing no one appear, yet he still felt like someone was looking at him. He suddenly thought there was no one outside the door. The door opened just because the latch broke. However, suddenly he noticed someone's wheezing breath. Initially thinking it was his wife, however, it wasn't. That breathing sound didn't come from the side, but from above his head, where the window was. Mr. Ba went cold all over, his heart tightened, looking up, and then in his terrified eyes, a grotesque face struck his eyes. He screamed loudly in extreme fear. The thing that scared him to pee his pants was Mr. Thing's face, not understanding why he was here and doing such a scary act. Mr. Ba's wife was awakened. She panicked, looking at her husband, without noticing someone else was just here. She asked, "Did you have a nightmare?" Mr. Ba shook his head slightly, then suddenly cried, continuously saying sorry to his wife, making her confused.
The next morning, Mr. Ba woke up sometime, sitting at the door smoking tobacco, eyes contemplative. Looking closely, he was trembling. It seemed he was cold. Every time he shook too much, he took a drag of tobacco to warm up. Mr. Ba was thinking about something he didn't dare decide yet. His wife walked out from the house, saw this, and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Mr. Ba looked up at her, tears flowing silently. He told her to cook something good for breakfast, and she nodded, going to the kitchen to cook. As for Min's house, a while later the mother and children were working in the house when someone called from outside. Recognizing whose voice it was, Mrs. Lon went to open the gate. It was Mr. Ty and his wife, an older brother who was also very close to Mr. Tom. The two said they came to light incense. Mrs. Lon invited both inside immediately. The wind outside began to pick up. Mrs. Lon clicked her tongue. What's with the weather? Sunny, then rainy, nothing proper. Perhaps it's becoming gloomy again. The three entered the house. Min looked at Mr. Ty, bowed in greeting, then took incense to give to the couple. Then Mr. Ty also clicked the lighter forever without success, just like Mr. Ba before. Min found it strange. "It seems broken, uncle. Let me go buy another one." Mr. Ty had to nod. The couple sat down to talk. Wait a bit to light incense later. Mr. Ty spoke painfully. "He left so suddenly, my wife and I were shocked for days, distracted, couldn't focus on anything." The wife also continued her husband's words. "My husband hasn't eaten anything for days. Gloomy all day. I persuaded him forever." Mrs. Lon nodded emotionally. Mr. Ty said he felt too sad, so he went out for a walk to let the two sisters talk. Although Mr. Ty was older than Mr. Tom, Mrs. Lon was older than Mr. Ty's wife. The two women knew each other since childhood, so they addressed each other as before. And Mr. Ty comforted Mrs. Lon. She just sat still, her eyes somewhat dazed, staring at the person opposite. And Mr. Ty hesitantly asked, "What's wrong, sister? Why look at me so intensely? Is there something on my face?" "Ah, no, I just see you were this age but still very youthful. If I didn't know you from childhood, I'd think you were 10 years younger than me. No wonder you always teased me." At the same time, Min returned from buying the lighter. Mr. Ty also went back inside to receive the lighter to light the incense. Just as he lit it, the lighter unexpectedly exploded in his hand. Mrs. Lon heard it and shouted, "What happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, don't worry, small wound. Where did you buy such a cheap lighter? Is his hand injured? Poor thing." Min was confused, unable to suspect a lighter could have an impact to explode so strongly. He remembered trying it when buying, and it was very normal. Instinctively, Min stood up to try looking at his father's portrait. He saw Mr. Tom's eyes looking angry again. Min shuddered, because this was the second or third time he saw this look. Initially, in a thought, he believed his father reserved that look for the one who harmed him, but now that belief became indefinite, indescribable. It seemed the two previous times he saw it, one was for Mr. Thing when he suddenly appeared from behind, two was for Mr. Ba. But if Min remembered correctly, at that time he also glimpsed this look. So who among the three was the one who harmed his father? Or were all three involved? Mr. Thing going mad, Min partly understood, but the other two, one was Mr. Ty, two was Mr. Ba. Did anything happen with those two? Now Min's question didn't exist for too long. Right after taking Mr. Ty to the clinic for bandage and returning, the mother and children saw Mr. Ba standing clawing his hands and feet in front of the gate. Asking he was vague and asked to come inside. Arriving, Mr. Ba didn't light incense, but knelt down in front of Mr. Tom's altar, making everyone confused. Mr. Ba kowtowed a few times, then turned around. Mrs. Lon was surprised to see him tearing up. Before she could ask anything, he knelt down and said, "I'm sorry. I did it all. I apologize to you all. Your father died because I harmed him." Mrs. Lon couldn't take it anymore hearing this. She collapsed, tears streaming. She rushed to grab Mr. Ba's neck and screamed, "Why? Why did you kill my husband?" Min and his sister heard the shocking news and couldn't stay calm, looking at him with angry eyes. But Mr. Ba still begged. Even if angry, let him have a chance to tell the whole truth. Min agreed to advise his mother to calm down. Mr. Ba began to recount. That day he was bored at home, so he also went to the lake to fish. Wanting to fish alone, he didn't invite anyone. Arriving, he was surprised to see his friend there. The two sat fishing together for a while when Mr. Tom caught a pretty large fish, looking very strange. Then the two argued about what fish it was. The small argument suddenly turned into a loud quarrel. However, there was no one around the lake, so no one knew this.
Arguing for a while with no one yielding, both rushed in to wrestle with each other. Then the climax of the event was Mr. Bob pushing Mr. Tom down into the lake. Seeing his friend flailing and struggling but not saving him. Because he was still angry at the time, he just ignored it and went home. Thinking Mr. Tom swam well, how could he die? Unexpectedly, he heard news that Mr. Tom drowned. He was too scared to go out or attend the funeral, and his wife happens to be away.
And that day he also returned to his parents' house for a few days, so he didn't know about it. Ming heard and asked, "So it was you who pushed my dad into the lake?" "Correct. It's all my fault. Now I will go confess. I can't hide it anymore. Seeing your Uncle Fing become like that, I know I won't be able to live peacefully with your dad. I'm sorry." Ming immediately asked if Mr. Thing was involved. Mr. Ba shook his head, saying he didn't know exactly why Mr. Thing became like that. But he also understood that when Mr. Tom was alive, Mr. Thing often played tricks to sabotage the couple. Perhaps that's why the resentment returned after death to take revenge on the older brother. Ming nodded. Mr. Ba intended to leave when he suddenly pulled him back. "Do you really think my dad was harmed by you? If not me, then who? Maybe at that time he fell and got a cramp, so—" Ming shook his head and asked, "So what about the fishing rod drifting far away? Should be that my dad chased the fish. Why was the rod in the middle of the lake? Isn't this very strange?" Mr. Ba tried to remember. At that time, Mr. Tum brought 3 rods, but arriving, he clearly saw his friend use only one. Asking, Mr. Tum said the rods were broken and unusable. As for the remaining rod, after Mr. Tum caught the strange fish, both argued and didn't fish anymore. That rod was also left on the bank. Remembering that, Mr. Ba immediately exclaimed, "So that rod was intentionally thrown out by someone?" Ming nodded. "If I guess correctly, after you left, someone else came whom you didn't know. That is also the person who killed my dad, throwing the rod into the lake to create a fake scene. But at that time, clearly he struggled very strongly and was drowning." Ming frowned and replied, "Does that mean—" Ming mentioned Mr. Tum's cheerful nature since childhood, liking to play tricks on his wife, children, and friends. Could it be he pretended to fall to scare his friend? Immediately, both thought of the highest possibility, Mr. Thing, because he was suffering retribution. But now Mr. Thing had gone mad and couldn't be questioned. Ming could only go to the neighboring commune to find the person Mr. Thing mentioned earlier to investigate. Asking, they confirmed Mr. Thing did not come here on that day. Ming immediately took this story to report. The police were present to review the matter, but Mr. Thing was now mad. Arresting him wouldn't yield answers. Ming was helpless, then thought of a way to help his uncle become sane again and pay for his crime before the law. After that, Mrs. Hank and her children went to Mr. Tum's grave. Mrs. Hank cried and begged her brother-in-law to forgive her older brother. Ming stood there. He was angry at Mr. Thing, not Mrs. Hank. Although knowing this woman wasn't simple, Mrs. Hank wasn't someone with murderous intent like his uncle. Suddenly, in the billowing incense smoke mixed with the sobs of Mrs. Land's daughter, Mrs. Hank heard another sob of a man. She suddenly looked around to search and vaguely saw a figure standing behind the incense smoke. She waved the smoke away and saw nothing, but when the smoke covered again, the person appeared behind the grave. Not seeing the face clearly, but that figure was Mr. Tum's, no mistake. She hurriedly exclaimed, "Is that Dad? Dad died so unjustly. Your unfilial son hasn't repaid you yet." It seems no one heard Ming's voice. They just bowed their heads, sobbing. Mr. Tum, vaguely behind the grave, turned his head to look at his wife and children, raising his voice as if wailing, "Son, I was killed by someone. I died with grievance. I cannot move on." Ming knelt down, crying in pain, unable to say anything. Everyone saw this and rushed to support him and asked. Ming recounted the recent event, making Mrs. Lan and Mrs. Hank pale. Mrs. Hank looked at her nephew in shock and asked again, but Ming affirmed it was true. Mrs. Hank turned and prayed immediately. "Oh heavens, Uncle, I know my husband wronged you, but please don't harm him, okay? If you died unjustly, point it out so he pays for his crime. I beg you to spare him this time. If he wakes up, I will definitely tell him to surrender." Ming sat kowtowing, begging Mr. Tum not to harm his uncle, but he didn't appear again. Mr. Ba surrendered and was detained pending clear investigation, because Mr. Thing wasn't lucid enough to give a statement. As for Ming, he thought his father agreed to overlook his brother, and even Mr. Ba accepted his fate. But no, that night Mr. Tum still appeared before the window, saying exactly one sentence, that he died unjustly and couldn't move on. Ming awoke in the night, realizing it was just a dream. However, since then he couldn't sleep again, his father's words weighing on his mind. Mr. Tum dying unjustly was clear, but why wouldn't he let go? Could it be he didn't want to forgive his brother? Ming worried about that. But the next morning Ming heard news that Mr. Thing became lucid again as normal. The police immediately invited him to work, but he said he did nothing. As for Ming investigating him, he admitted it was because he understood Ming's nature, so he boldly said that. But actually, that day he went to his mistress's house over there and stayed until evening to return. After verification, Mr. Thing was released, but everyone looked at him with contempt and disdain. Ming had to accept that result. He went to meet Mr. Ba. He also said thanks and agreed to let the law handle it. Ming sighed heavily, because anger was anger, but now he still had something nagging him.
Night came. Just lying down to sleep, Min heard footsteps walking outside. He knew his father had returned. Mr. Tum stood in the middle of the yard in the white mist. He wanted to approach, but he said, "Don't step forward." Min wanted to ask for clarity why Mr. Tum was still here and wouldn't leave. What was he still attached to? Then Mr. Tum left a sentence. "I died unjustly. I cannot move on. I was killed by someone." Finishing this sentence, Mr. Tum turned and walked away, disappearing, leaving Min rooted to the spot, his tears flowing. Mr. Think was proven innocent. Mr. Ba surrendered and faced manslaughter charges. So why did Mr. Tum still say he died unjustly? Min thought of each of his father's sentences in turn and then stopped at the last one. "I was killed by someone." Min started and shouted, "Correct! Killed by someone means not manslaughter." It was still too late at night. He had to rush into the room to rest and wait for daylight. Now, in his head, he thought of a person. Min didn't notice on Mr. Tom's portrait at this moment a gentle smile was appearing. From the corner of the eye there were also 2 drops of water like tears flowing out, running down, soaking into the lining fabric below. Returning to the time a few hours ago, that is, evening at Mr. Ty's house, the couple finished eating, sat discussing something, and went to sleep at 9. The wife opened the wardrobe to get clothes to change comfortably when she saw something fall out from inside. She was surprised, bent down to pick it up, and saw a lighter. Looking both strange and familiar, she asked, "Oh, where is this lighter from, honey? Why does it look familiar but I can't remember? You don't smoke, so why keep a lighter in here?" Mr. Ty didn't answer. She turned to look at him lying straight on the bed. She approached to ask, but smelled a very foul reek. Asking forever still received only silence. Annoyed, Mr. Ty's wife bent down to shake her husband, thinking he was fast asleep. Unexpectedly, as soon as she touched him, she pulled her hand back because she felt Mr. Ty's body was soaked with water. Terrified, she hurriedly ran to turn on the light. As soon as the light was on, she turned back and immediately screamed in panic, because at this moment on the bed was not Mr. Ty, but a very familiar person, Mr. Tom. "Heavens! Mr. Tom, why are you here?" Mr. Tom stirred to sit up. Mr. Ty's wife was terrified, unable to hold it, so she fainted, dropping the lighter on the bed. When she woke up, she saw it was morning, but Mr. Ty was nowhere to be found. She hurriedly asked people to search. Just as Min arrived, she panicked and went searching too. Suddenly, Min thought of a place, his father's grave, but arriving there, he didn't see him.
Then he ran to the lake where Mr. Tom had the accident, also saw no one there, and Mr. Min fell to his knees when someone ran from somewhere reporting her house was on fire. The two rushed back to the neighbor trying to put out the fire, but everything was too late. Everything seemed to have burned down. Then people were shocked to find Mr. Ty's charred body inside, and she screamed in pain and fainted. Her daughter almost understood everything, only the real cause was unclear. Mr. Ty's funeral took place. Min lingered at his father's grave. This time no need to search any more. He saw Mr. Tom standing right in front of the tombstone sobbing. He approached and saw his father seeming to hold his own altar photo. Min asked if the house fire was caused by him. Mr. Tom nodded in admission. Min shed tears. "But why did things turn out like this? Uncle Ty was the one who harmed you, right?" Mr. Tom continued to nod. He put his photo down, signaling his son to sit beside. He began to tell a truth. That day, after Mr. Ba arrived, it was true they caught a strange fish. Both argued fiercely and scuffled. However, with his playful nature, Mr. Tom had no intention of fighting. He even laughed loudly while wrestling. Perhaps Mr. Ba was too scared to remember that. Then, exactly as Mr. Ba recounted, Mr. Tom was pushed into the lake. But that fall couldn't easily take his life. Mr. Ba ran away. Mr. Tom surfaced, then said, "Damn it, just a scare, and he's so afraid he didn't save me." Just as he finished speaking, behind him he didn't notice someone grabbing the back of his neck tight, then pushed him down into the lake and drowned him to death. This person's strength was extremely powerful. Mr. Tom couldn't resist. The result was he was killed and his body left in the lake. However, before dying, he heard that person's voice. This was Mr. Ty. The reason he did so was because in the past, Mr. Ty's wife was Mr. Tom's lover, but the two broke up later. Mr. Tom married Miss Lan, and Mr. Ty married the other. Both soon had no feelings left. However, for some reason, Mr. Ty still kept in his head the thought that his wife was involved with Min's father. Once, Mr. Ty even went to the lake to ask, but Mr. Tom said the two met by chance and exchanged a few greetings only. Unfortunately, Mr. Ty was blinded by jealousy. Finally, that day, hearing Miss Lan say her husband was fishing out here, he crawled out to find him. Witnessing the event happen before, he took advantage to harm the person he was jealous of. As for Mr. Ba, he didn't explain. Mr. Tom only said he just wanted to scare him. Anyway, Mr. Ba didn't intend to kill him. However, he was still angry because he ran away instead of rushing down to save him. Min wondered about Mr. Think. Mr. Tom explained a terribly horrific truth. That is, Min's mother being bedridden wasn't due to age, but caused by Mr. Think's hand. He wanted her to die quickly, not having time to write a will, so he could collude with the eldest brother to monopolize that land. But this method failed. The grandmother became weak but didn't die, so he didn't dare act again. Mr. Think's target shifted to his younger brother, tried many times to find a way to kill Min's father. However, Mr. Tom had a smarter quality than Min, so he avoided it, just not wanting to say it. That's why Mr. Tom tormented his brother after death, both to make him fall under suspicion and to let him live in extreme pain. Mr. Tom also said he didn't let his son know the truth from the start, purely for revenge. He also said he could hardly move on, could only go to rely on that shaman, hoping soon to have a chance for reincarnation. He instructed Min to stay and take care of his mother and sister, said a few more sentences, then left. When asked about Mr. Ba, Mr. Tom said he could rest assured. Then Min woke up finding himself sitting leaning against his father's tombstone. He cleaned up for a while and went home. Mr. Ba was then released because he didn't kill anyone. The person causing everything was Mr. Tai, and Mr. Ty's wife was the one who declared this matter. She said on the day Mr. Tom passed away, she saw her husband return looking soaked as if fell in the river. Sleeping at night, he mumbled, "I killed you, I killed you."
She realized her husband was a murderer, but not wanting him to go to jail, she remained silent. Finally, she was convicted of concealing a criminal and sentenced to prison. She accepted paying for her husband's crime to the law, as well as atoning to Mr. Tom. Later, when she was released, everyone still welcomed her back kindly. Her children and Ms. Lan also often came to talk. Min and his sister went to the city to start careers, got married, and often returned to the country to visit their mother with their spouses and children. Inside the altar, Mr. Tom's portrait was gently smiling, seeing his children and grandchildren playing in the front yard. Mr. Think also didn't live as a fake person anymore, but lived happily with his wife, children, and grandchildren.
Thank you very much, dear listeners, for tuning in. Goodbye for now, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next stories.